A speech by Conservative MP Jacob Rees-Mogg at a student event in Bristol over the weekend, ways to combat the intimidation and abuse of MPs, is back on the agenda. On yesterday's Sunday Politics, Conservative chairman Brandon Lewis spoke to Sarah Smith about what more could be done to protect our elected representatives.
We are going to change the law to make it against the law for people to intimidate people. Part of that is allowing local election candidates to say that to not have to put their home address, as we saw last elections, people actually have an abuse in their homes. But also from the Conservative Party point of view, internally we're going to have, as I launched a few weeks ago, a respect pledge that all our candidates will sign up to. If they've breached that code, we will suspend them and we will investigate it. And I'm just disappointed that some 4 weeks in, the Labour leadership still have not stepped up to the plate to do the right thing on this.
Brandon Lewis there yesterday. Luciana Berger, why won't Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party sign up to this new code of conduct?
Well, as we just heard, it's the Conservatives are bringing forward their own code of conduct, and if the Labour Party brings forward one, I would welcome that. I think it would be a very positive step forward, and the proposals that are being put forward today to ensure that council candidates don't have to put their addresses on the ballot paper, I think that's really very important. And also ensuring that we've got measures in place to protect all candidates, because at the moment the laws protect voters, and that's important to ensure that they're not intimidated or harassed. But unfortunately, as we've seen in recent elections, intimidation does take place, and we should be doing everything to mitigate against it.
But we do have extensive laws, Robert Halfon, that exist already to protect people from abuse and intimidation. Why do we need more legislation?
Well, the laws aren't working, and the climate has got incredibly bad over the past few years. I've fought 5 elections. Was a candidate since 1999. It is dramatically different now. We've had, in my own constituency, people painting on walls if volunteers put up posters saying, "See, XXT lives here," painting on the house, not just wrecking the poster.
But wouldn't that come under the Public Order Act or Crime and Disorder Act?
But it doesn't seem to be working. There's no deterrent on people to do this. People can write whatever they want on social media, quite libelous stuff. We shouldn't, by the way, this isn't just about candidates or about elected representatives. It's also about the activities against volunteers and members of parties who are also being intimidated.
Right, and intimidation in your mind is what exactly? Who would judge the intimidating behaviour? I mean, would it be the victim, the recipient, or people passing by? How would it be judged?
I think there's common sense. If someone's being harassed, if someone paints something on somebody's house, as happened in my own constituency of Harlow, as I've just described, if someone threatens to have their fence being burnt down because they're displaying a Consider poster and the fence is then burnt down, I think there's pretty much common sense about how you deal with it. But social media is very important too.
Well, let's talk about the social media, because Luciana Berger, you had an online troll and he directed vicious anti-Semitic threats against you continually, and he was jailed. So did the legislation not work in that instance?
Well, I've had 3 people that have been jailed for online abuse, sadly. I think the challenge with those cases and what we're talking about today is that those cases took a really long time to get to court. We're talking about in one case, close to 2 years. And so the challenge at election time is what can be done to ensure that we protect all candidates and everything in the election process, which happens in a much shorter time period than the current legislation exists for when you have harassment or other cases.
I mean, Facebook and Twitter have a lot to answer for, because if you're in a newspaper or in a book and you publish something defamatory, you can then sue the book and the publisher, whereas Facebook and Twitter can have stuff on it which is incredibly defamatory, can be trolling and bullying, and yet is very, very difficult to do something about.
And you would like the publisher to obviously be responsible then for the stuff that is printed on...
Well, the publisher and the perpetrator.
Right, but let's take the example of Jacob Rees-Mogg. You will have seen the coverage and the pictures of the scuffle that broke out protesting against his presence and his speech. Would you have regarded that as intimidating behaviour that would be prosecuted under a new law?
Well, I think Jacob has said himself it was a tough protest, but protest should be allowed.
Exactly.
I think the question is
how did you view it before he said anything?
Well, people who turn up in masks and then try and stop any kind of debate and discourse, and it looks like it's going to become violent. I think, again, you have to judge these things on common sense. I believe in protest, I believe in demonstration, but it has to be fair. You have to make sure that all the arguments are heard, and these people who were turning up to Jacob Rees-Mogg actually wanted to stop him from speaking at all.
But he said he wasn't intimidated, and he said people should be allowed to protest. So do you think there is a danger that bringing in new legislation is actually going to stifle that sort of debate and protest?
There's intimidation, but there is also trying to drown somebody else. And if what they were trying to do was stop Jacob speaking at all, I think these things can be judged on a case-by-case basis, and I do think that common sense can be applied. It's pretty easy to see what has happened in this occasion. But the law needs to be toughened for the reasons that we talked about.
I mean, just to add, what I want to see is to ensure that anyone that's interested in taking part in public life feels able to do so. I think people seeing some of what's happened in recent years, particularly in the wake of the Brexit referendum results, some of the scenes you might have seen on television, that we do everything possible to create environments where people from all different walks of life feel able and want to put themselves forward. And I can understand why, like hearing, as I've done very recently, speaking to a younger audience, why they might not want to, and therefore we should be doing everything possible to creating those positive environments that encourage people to put themselves forward.
And what about atmosphere within your own party outside of election time? How should that be handled when there are claims made about sexist and anti-Semitic behaviour?
Well, it's incumbent on our National Executive Committee to be taking action with regards to the complaints that have been made. We know there's a number of very serious high-profile cases that are waiting to be heard, and I don't think that administration should be an impediment to be taking action, and I want to see action being taken by a National Executive Committee when complaints have been made.
The problem with this, though, is Corbyn and John McDonnell give the appearance, at least, of turning a blind eye to it, and they never come out outrightly and condemn political intimidation.
Well, they say they do, of course.
Well, John McDonnell himself has said that he has called for zero tolerance on anti-Semitism, and I want to see that put into action, and I want to see our National Executive Committees seriously address what I understand to be a serious backlog of cases.
We'll leave it there. Now, it's time